Hey, so today I'm going to talk to you about the dynamics and the mechanics of the profit and loss account and how it interplays with that of the balance sheet. So, as an entrepreneur, what is the single biggest aim of you? Of course, you got a profitable business, you got an enterprise, you got people, they are all working well, and all of them are working towards one single goal. The single goal is to maximize the return for the shareholder, isn't it? And how do you measure it? You measure it by a simple formula, return on equity, ROE. And what is ROE? ROE is measured as the EBITDA or EBIT or profit before tax, whatever you want to define, right? That's the number, that's the performance of the operation. That divided by is as a percentage of the total capital that you have employed in the business. The total capital employed in the business is a mixture of your own money, which is called equity, and the borrowed money, which is called the loan. So A plus B. This is on the left hand side. But the equity and the debt on the left hand side is employed in the business, and therefore it results in what is called as an assets, right? On the application side. On the application side, it could be fixed assets and current assets. Okay, the fixed assets consists of your plant, your machinery, your vehicles, your furniture, fixtures, your head office, land and buildings that stands there. Your current asset consists of two working capital items which are current assets, and there is one current liability, so the net current asset is working capital. Your inventory, if you have got stock in trade, if you are a manufacturing company, you will necessarily have some inventory. And then you got receivables, because you give money, you sell, and then when the customers take time to pay, and then you buy stuff and you take time to pay your customers or your suppliers. And A, inventory, plus B, receivables, less C, which is accounts payable, is your current asset. Plus, of course, if you have got any money or if you have got any working capital loan, all these things will add or deduct, as the case may be, from the working capital. So you got fixed capital, you got working capital, fixed assets and the working capital assets. Now, how does this work on your ROCE, right? I just want to actually segregate this and get into the nuances of understanding, because during the discourse, right, we do a lot of work with enterprises, we work with a lot of CFOs, we work with a lot of entrepreneurs. One thing that is constantly forgotten is what are the components, what are the moving parts of this equation, and how do we move the levers backwards and forwards, and how do we maximize the return on equity or return on capital employed. The one difference between return on equity and return on capital employed, I want you to understand this. Return on equity is return on your own money, shareholders' money, which is the original money that you invested plus the retained earnings that you kept in the business, right? Then on top of that, you have got borrowed capital. You add the long-term loans and you also add your short-term loans. That becomes your borrowed capital. Then A plus B, that is equity plus debt, total it becomes capital employed in the business. Now, the return on capital employed, if you have no loan, then it is always equity. The return on capital employed is more important because there is an item of leverage here. That's what we are talking about. If the business needs, let's say for example, if the business needs 100 rupees, it's not necessary that you have to put all the 100 rupees from your own pocket, right? We all know you have to put some money from your own pocket, that's called equity, and balance money you can borrow from the bank. And the borrowing, you should optimize it, you should leverage it in such a way that there is less of your money, there is more of bankers' money. But fundamentally, it assumes that your money makes more return and bankers' money has got a coupon, right? So it comes at 8%, 9%, 7%, depending upon the inflation and RBI's rates there. So that's the money that you need to make and you need to give them. They have a fixed expectation, and the remainder all goes to the entrepreneur. So the entrepreneur tends to make maximum amount of money. So you calculate return on capital employed, and as long as your return on capital employed is higher than the coupon rate expected by the bank, you have an opportunity to leverage. If you make more money than what you pay to the banker, that means that all that excess will all go and for the benefit of the entrepreneur, and as a percentage of the entrepreneur's money, it becomes very high, because entrepreneur's money is only a smaller proportion of the overall money that is needed. The smaller proportion could be 25%, 30%, 33%, at max 50%. So you give some money to the banker, you take the balance money to the banker. Let's say, for example, you make 20% return on capital employed. For simplicity's sake, let us assume that you got 50% loan, 50% equity. The 50% loan, let's say, for simplicity's sake, the interest rate is 10%. So you pay 10% to the banker. So the 10% remainder, so you made 20%, right? The 10% remainder, what you have not paid to the banker, plus the other 20% that you made, you applied on the balance 50%, you are actually making a much higher return for yourself. That's called the leverage. This is called the financial leverage. I want you to understand the financial leverage and keep that in mind. The return on capital employed can always be improved and increased by not only engineering your own capital to the borrowed capital mix, you can also engineer this by better managing your asset side of the balance sheet. And that's more often it is actually forgotten. And that's exactly where I want to really throw some light on it. So we said that on the right hand side of your balance sheet, or on your application side or asset side, you got fixed assets, you got current assets. Current assets consist of your working capital. Now the working capital has to move in the business. That's why it is called working capital. It doesn't stay in one place. It moves. It goes out and comes back. It goes out and comes back. In that way, it rotates. Right? How many times the working capital rotates in your business is calculated by few ratios. So some of the most important ratios are your debtors turnover ratio. If your turnover is 100 rupees and if your debtors are 10, that means your debtors are turning over 10 times in the business. And if you are similarly your inventory turnover ratio, and then you also have a turnover ratio for the people whom you owe money. Many times what I have seen in businesses is the DSO, the days sales outstanding, which means the number of days equivalent of the money that is outstanding from your customers. If it is, let's say, 60 or 90 days, and correspondingly we go and see the days payables outstanding is smaller than 90 days time. It's time for you to ask question, why is it that my DSO is 90 and DPO is 40? What can I do about it? Can I actually work on it party by party, material by material, item by item? Can I negotiate better credit terms? In an ideal situation, you have got your receivables 90 days, your payables also could be all the way up to 90 days time. Many companies, many of our clients that we have seen, they are very efficient in paying off the creditor, which is a great thing. You earn good karma, you take more money to recover money from your customers, you pay money faster to your suppliers. Good karma, excellent, well done. But ask yourself the question, does that actually help you in maximizing ROCE? Here is money that is available to you and credit that is available to you from your own suppliers. How can you leverage this? How can you actually improve this? This is one item which I have repeatedly seen not under the focus of the entrepreneurs. I always tell them that it's not that you go and delay. I'm not telling them, I'm not advising you to deliberately delay your customers. No, I'm not saying that. I am saying, is there a possibility of, without increasing the cost of materials, can you get higher credit from your customers? And can you use it better? And weigh that, relatively weigh that, how is your DPO versus your DSO? It is very important to see. You should maintain a ratio between a DPO and DSO. Ideally, it should be 1, but if you are targeting a fraction, it should be in the higher fractions, 0.8, 0.7, and I have seen it less than 0.5. And that's the time when you really need to ask the question, what should be the fraction that I should do? This is one of the items that you should look at it. Then you look at the components of receivables, components of payables. So for example, if your DSO is 90 days time, then as a result of which your receivables are a particular amount and it decreases your working capital turns, your asset turns, it decreases. जैसे बोलते हैं ना, जो पैसा गुम रहा है बिजनेस में, धंधा में, वो कम हो रहा है, नंबर ऑफ टर्न्स कम हो रहा है. अगर कम हो रहा है तो आपको ROCE कम मिलेगा. So if you reduce your DSO from 90 days by any number, you reduce it, बूंद बूंद से सागर है, ठीक है ना. So you reduce it by 1 day or 2 day, or for some set of the customers, you try and reduce it even more. Then what happens is your ROCE starts increasing. So now do you see the correlation between what you do in your business or what you do, or sometimes what you don't do in your business has got a close correlation to the profit that you are making. And that's your main responsibility. Your responsibility is to optimize, increase, maximize ROCE. And the components are debtors, the day sales outstanding. How do I reduce it? ROCE increases. You can see the formula. We are showing you by way of a formula and worked out example as well. And you work on inventory. Many times you just walk across your factory, right? You walk across your factory, you walk across your warehouse, and you see money, material lying there, not moving inventory. That's what they call fast moving inventory, slow moving inventory, non-moving inventory. When you see slow moving inventory, when you see not moving inventory, what you should remember in your mind is, ये जो पैसा इधर पड़ा है, it is reducing my ROCE. ये ज्ञान आपको आना चाहिए. Whenever you see a customer not paying you on time, or when you see inventory not moving as per the original design, this means that this is blocking your earning capacity. Your ROCE goes down. You reduce it, your ROCE goes up. So constantly, like Arjuna was focused on the bird's eye, right? That's the only thing. When Drona asked him, what do you see? He said, I see bird's eye. I don't see anything else. The only thing that you should look at as an entrepreneur is ROCE, and the components of ROCE or everything that is available there on your balance sheet. They are not just some, and they have a very close correlation. So you have a responsibility in your P&L. I am not belittling that. You have to increase your profitability. And how will you increase your profitability? Standard old formula. You increase sales, you reduce expenses, you increase your profit, right? But that is one thing. The stuff is not only that. That multiplied by the number of times you are rotating it in your business is what is ROCE. I want you to understand this. Many people just look at this one single dimension. I made so much, my profit percentage, my margin is so much. If your margin is 18%, 20%, but your ROCE could as well be less than that, you are not going to be measured by what is your efficiency on the margin. Your EBITDA margin is alone is not going to be measured as your efficiency. Your ROCE is what is going to measure your efficiency. Your EBITDA margin tells us that yes, you have got a fantastic business idea, you are able to sell your profit, your products at a good profit, good margin, no doubt you have achieved. But what is also very important is, business is all about doing this and this. So you increase your margins, you improve your margins, and usko tej se gumao. How to do that? I told you, go line by line. You make your fixed assets work better, ensure that you don't have optimally, suboptimally utilized assets, non-productive assets sitting in your fixed asset. Ensure that your debtors are paid on time. Constantly challenge your DSO assumptions. Don't say that, in my मेरा धंधा में 45 days के नीचे नहीं होगा, ऐसा assumption आप मत करिएगा. So start challenging that assumption, start bringing it down, and start working on your inventory, start working on your accounts payable, and see what's your accounts payable ratio versus accounts receivable ratio. See, is it close to 1? Is it a fraction? Is it a lower set of the fraction, higher set of the fraction? All these things that you need to do. So making profit in the business consists of optimizing your mix between your owner's money and the borrowed money, and the borrowed money also optimizing the risk between, optimizing the mix between the long-term capital, short-term capital. Long-term capital normally, theoretically, it comes at a lower interest rate. Short-term capital comes at a higher interest rate. How do we optimize the mix? That's one thing that you need to do. And then move on to your asset side. Look at every single component. Usko, how do we ensure that it moves in the business? So then you actually have got working capital. In a good company where working capital is working, you have to ask the question, is the working capital working for me or am I working for the working capital? It's a symbiotic relationship. It is both ways. The working capital ultimately should work for you, but it will only work for you if you are working for the working capital. So do you want working capital to be working for you? Then you should be also working for the working capital. It's a very mutual relationship. And you got to understand, you see, working capital is not going to work for you just on its own. उसको आपको तेज से फोर्स से घुमाना पड़ेगा. For that you need to have a very clear understanding of every single part of what exactly moves your ROCE. And the capital employed has got a source side, capital employed has got an obligation side. The source side consists of your mix between equity and debt, short-term debt and long-term debt, various debts that you are using to get this. And then on the right-hand side, you got your fixed assets, you got your current assets. Most important one is DSO, DPO, and then your inventory if you are a manufacturing company. So you need to understand the interplay of all these 5 items so that you are on top of what is called your capital employed. Once you understand your capital employed, you start focusing on that, then that's the time we can say, hey entrepreneur, working capital is working for you. And if it is working for you, your ROCE is going to be phenomenal. I have heard of stories from very reputed chartered accountants, very highly qualified CFOs, that they have challenged the inventory turnover ratio and the working capital turnover ratio for their industry. People will always tell you it is only 90 days, it's only 80 days. This is a norm in our industry. But there are stories of where the CFOs have questioned it and challenged it. And if the inventory working capital turnover is, let's say, 4 times, that means 4 times it turns 90 days broadly, right? 90 into 4 is 360 days, so roughly it's close to a year's time. If it is 4 times, there are people, take it from me, there are CFOs working in CFO Bridge who have helped the entrepreneurs to take the 4 to 6 to 8, even to 12 in exceptional circumstances. And I know of a person who has done it outside CFO Bridge to 19 times he has taken it, the inventory turnover ratio. And literally they have moved on to a stage where working capital becomes negative working capital. You understand what is negative working capital? Negative working capital is a situation where your DPO is higher than your DSO. Super, isn't it? How can we get there? Where we are getting money from our suppliers. Our suppliers are giving us money more than what we need to lend it out in the market. It's a great situation to be in. And it has happened. There are organizations which have managed working capital in such a way that they are into what is called a negative working capital. And their ROCE increases. If you have got a negative working capital, then you know what you will do? You don't need to borrow money from the banker. You are already having your suppliers, your ecosystem is the people who are giving you money. So you don't need to borrow from the banker. And you will eliminate the highest cost debt, and your capital employed will become looking very lean and very beautiful. And if it is the case, then your ROCE is going to be one of the best in the industry. So as entrepreneurs and as the CFO, my only recommendation to you is to work on the ROCE, return on capital employed. And while you are working on return on capital employed, you need to understand every single component. And if you need help, I'm sure you will need help. We are there. CFO Bridge is there. We work on every single component. We understand this. We will ensure that your working capital is working for you. And that's where the partnership comes from CFO Bridge. Please call us, come to our website and send us a request. We will be quite happy to work for you. We will quite happy to work with you to improve your working capital turns and ensure that you make the highest ROCE. Thank you.